Hello, everyone. We hope that you are doing well and staying safe during this uncertain time. Obviously, this is not how we plan to share our presentation with you, but we are still super excited to share our findings with you. We enjoyed learning about our community, and we hope you do as well. The community we observed is Fairmont. Myself, along with Allison and Brooke, had the privilege of observing this community and learning so much more about it. So, prior to the current COVID-19 pandemic, we had been racking our brains trying to figure out how to make this presentation as fun and interactive as possible. Obviously, that looks different in the virtual setting, but we still had a question that we were pretty eager to ask. So Fairmont is obviously close to Morgantown in distance, especially for the students who do have transportation. And we were curious as to how many of you or how many West Virginia University students in general have spent time in Fairmont. If so, what was that motivation to go there? We assume it would be the restaurants, the Polka Dot, Mariel's, but perhaps there was something we missed in our discoveries. Maybe there's another motivation for students going, maybe to connect with other college students who attend Fairmont University. We were just curious if any of you have spent much time in Fairmont. If so, how much time, how often do you go? And again, why? And if not, is there a reason why you haven't gone? So that is just kind of a question that was we were all pondering, and we still wanted to ask, even though we can't get the response immediately as we would in a classroom setting, but we still wanted to propose the question for y'all to think about as we go through our presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward with the presentation. As a group, we decided it would be a lot simpler to just have one person present. So you're stuck with me talking about Fairmont. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So geographic characteristics. So Fairmont is obviously in West Virginia, and it is located in Marion County. So Fairmont is accessible from a major interstate, I-79. Unfortunately, this has some negative impacts as well as positive impacts. Obviously, it's pretty great for traveling and for commuting to different employment agencies for the residents, and it's kind of become a place for people to live, to commute to work. However, I-79 has been associated with sex trafficking. So hopefully Fairmont, as we observed, we did not, see any sex trafficking, but as we've learned, it's kind of hard to spot and not something we would probably see. So we kind of hope that that doesn't impact the community. But anytime you live near an interstate like that, anything's a possibility. So moving forward, Tigert River and the West Fork River run through Fairmont, and they act as a natural barrier. So the Tigert River and the West Fork River join to form the Monongalia River. And so Fairmont is geographically accessible. So moving forward to census data, the population is about 18,411. However, there are about 4,000 students, roughly, almost, when classes are in session. So that probably brings the population up to about 22,000, give or take. So of Fairmont's population of that 18,411, 16,900 of them are white, 1,474 are Black, 219 are Asian, 19 are Native American, 335 are two or more ethnicities. So households. 7,577 households in Fairmont. 3,005 of those are married. 3,156 are non-family. 1,021 are female-headed. 395 are male-headed. And the average family size is about 2.86. So this graph that just popped up is just representing the household data that I just read to you. Something that stood out to us was that this non-family portion here is larger than the married portion. With Fairmont being a rural and conservative area, we thought maybe this would be just a little bit smaller. So moving on with some more census data, there are 9,000 516 females in Fairmont, 8,991 males, and the median age is about 34. So this graph here shows the difference between gender. It's pretty well even. There are more females, but it's almost an even split with male and females, which is sort of what we had expected to see. So the average income in Fairmont is $41,904. The unemployment rate is 6.5%, and then the poverty rate we feel is pretty high for the population size. It's 24.63%. And then this graph here is showing the overall population are these black bars here, and then the gray bars are the poverty by race. So you can kind of see how it compares with the overall population. So what do we think about all this data? So the poverty rate, 24.63, we felt was apparent. We saw very different conditions of houses, the community conditions. It's sort of obvious that there's a large portion of the community who struggle. The unemployment rate of 6.3 we feel is incorrect. During our observation, we saw several individuals who were experiencing homelessness. They were just kind of hanging out, laying in the streets. We saw just such a variety of individuals roaming around. We saw all older people, no younger people, but they were all just kind of there hanging out. And then Fairmont's median age of 34, we found shocking or interesting because Fairmont is a rural community, as I mentioned before, so we expected that median age to be a little bit higher. The data shows that the large majority of the population is white, and this was true through our observation. However, kind of we'll talk more about it later, but our key informants both said that Fairmont was fairly diverse. However, we did not see this diversity in our observation. So moving forward with political characteristics, there was not much to classify political activity, although we did come to the conclusion that Fairmont was most likely conservative, because while driving around, we saw several Trump stickers, Trump flags. Other than that, there was not a whole lot that was indicative of the political activity. So library and newspaper. Marion County Public Library, we actually had the opportunity to connect a little bit with some of the people from the library. The library is a huge hangout for the homeless population. When we had gone, the library was actually closed, but one of the times when we'd gone, and homeless people were gathered outside the library. So it was very evident that that statement was true, that they do find comfort and they are able to get resources through the library, which we found really awesome, but interesting that of all places, the library does that. And then newspaper, Times West Virginia is Fairmont's own daily newspaper, which we thought was pretty cool that they have kind of their own research to share without their community. Road conditions, definitely what you would expect for West Virginia. They hold true. Some roads were well kept, but a majority were filled with potholes. And then downtown Fairmont, the road conditions were awful. I think they may have even had a little bit more of an issue with potholes than Morgantown, and that's saying a lot. So they definitely need some help there. All of West Virginia needs help with the roads. Our state does not do the best of maintaining roads. So education, we were very shocked and pleased by this. So obviously Fairmont is home to Fairmont State University. There are two high schools, East Fairmont and Fairmont Senior. Fairmont Senior has an excellent football program and has actually produced many of the athletes who attend WVU. There are also several elementary and middle schools in the area, and they are rated pretty high in comparison to the other schools in West Virginia. So these are some pictures that we took. This is the courthouse, which is right next to or on the same street as this Joe Manchin building. And then we were able to go visit one of the high schools and walk around a little bit. It looked a little bit kind of dark and depressing, but this is Fairmont Senior High. So, economic characteristics. There are a lot of fast food restaurants, a few grocery stores, Walmart kind of being the biggest, and then they had a movie theater and some smaller stores. So, they have some retail employment and food employment. And then Fairmont State University offers a variety of jobs such as custodial, maintenance, food service, and then, of course, they have professors and other faculty and staff. There were many indicators of poverty, um, lots of rundown housing, and then again, just lots of people sitting and lying on the streets. Thankfully, Fairmont has public transit. It is the Marion County Public Transit. They had buses that drive to several different locations. Some of the locations include the VA hospital in Clarksburg, the Pleasant Valley Mall, and Morgantown. Actually, even while we were there, we saw several buses driving around. So they are really on top of it. They do really well with their public transportation. And kind of just a bonus fact for the time being, as I had mentioned, these buses seem really reliable. But unfortunately, due to COVID-19, they have temporarily suspended all routes. So hopefully that this all kind of clears up soon because I feel like the community heavily relies on buses. So I'm really quite certain that this has put a damper on things for the community. So moving forward with housing conditions, as I had said, our group had observed several rundown housing. So as you can see, these top pictures are a little bit more rundown, but these were better compared to a lot of the houses that we saw. And then they do have some nicer housing. So it's really a mix. And then moving kind of along with the houses, House Hunters, West Virginia style, they do have a variety of costs. So they have some homes here. As you can see, this outline here is Fairmont, and they have several houses for sale ranging from 300,000, 100,000, 80,000. So kind of a ballpark. And then, oops, sorry. As you can see here, there are different gauges, kind of all in like the upper price range, some nicer homes. And then over here is a $46,000 home that's near the college that they're claiming is a great investment, and it seems fairly all right. So that's kind of how the housing is for Fairmont. So moving on to social characteristics, and some of this may be a little bit redundant. We saw a variety of churches. Kind of along with the houses, some of the churches were super run down and looked like they weren't used, but then there were a lot of churches that were well off. We noticed a variety of denominations for the churches, but the ones that stood out or had more, we saw Baptist, Methodist, Jehovah's Witness. And like I said, there were several churches, so that's not, fully representative of all the churches in Fairmont. And again, a majority of the community is white and middle-aged. There was only one playground that we were able to observe in Fairmont, and it was next to an apartment complex, and it was a really run-down playground, and it didn't have much. It had like a slide and some swings. So it's kind of sad that there's not really a place to play. If there is one, we did not find it. Some popular places that are kind of like the informal hangout spots include the Joe and Throw, Muriel's, and the Polka Dot. There didn't seem to be any formal hangout places. There is a Chamber of Commerce building, so if there's a formal meeting of some sort with the community, we would suspect that maybe go there. And then, of course, Senator Joe Manchin has his building that could be utilized for more formal things, but pretty much it seemed to be the informal thing. They have a lot of really cool random restaurants, but these three, the Joe and Throw, Muriel's, and the Polka Dot, seem to be the most popular in Fairmont. And then they did have some resources available. They have a WIC building. They have the soup opera. The soup opera feeds the homeless. They had the DHHR, and then they had a pretty cool senior center. There was obviously, again, a variety of housing, but the majority that we saw was very run down. So moving forward to our informants. Our first informant was young. She's 25, and she's a newer resident to Fairmont. She kind of works in the helping profession, serves with social workers, and she works for the National Youth Advocate Program in Fairmont. So she was really helpful in giving us kind of accurate um, statistics and accurate connections to current resources for the population. Informant number 2 is employed by WVU. She lived in Fairmont for 40 years. So, kind of the key highlights from informant number 1. Muriel's is the best food and a great place to hang out. Fairmont has been largely impacted by the opioid epidemic, and there are several children in the foster care system due to drug abuse. Unfortunately, it's been such a large problem in our state, and I think it has affected so many communities, not just Fairmont. Our group actually witnessed some interesting behavior from people who struggled with drug abuse as we were driving. We saw kind of a group of people using drugs, fighting, going through trash, like doing all kinds of stuff. And we kind of saw it and we're like, whoa, and we just kind of kept driving. And then we made a full circle and we came back by when we passed them again, there were police and ambulance there. So, it's very unfortunate that the opioid epidemic has had such a huge impact on communities such as Fairmont, but our state as a whole. So, kind of moving forward with more highlights from this informant, she educated us on various agencies, and they largely serve Marion County, but they really extend their resources, and they often serve clients and children from Morgantown, Clarksburg, Bridgeport, and other surrounding areas. So informant number 2, again, stated that Muriel's was the best. And she also kind of educated us more on the heart of Fairmont and the community and why people would want to be in Fairmont. So the people of Fairmont are very engaged in their community events and activities, as well as serving one another. Something that she said was interesting, despite the community being very engaged with one another, is that there is a separation between the east side and the west side of Fairmont. She said that this was initially created by the rivalry between 2 high schools and specifically started from sports, but she said they remain divided. That's kind of interesting how just a small friendly rivalry between, a sport game can kind of cause a whole community to divide. And then one of the biggest changes for the population of Fairmont occurred after the FBI Center moved to Bridgeport. This created more housing and caused some changes in the area to attract people from Washington, D.C. and Maryland. So they tried to make nicer housing and make changes to the community so that people would want to move there. So Fairmont holds a variety of festival celebrations and feasts. And then Fairmont State University is a huge source of pride for the city of Fairmont and its constituents. Both informants had agreed that the diversity of the community and of the college and the way that they celebrate that diversity is better executed than WVU's diversity week. So we found that to be interesting, especially since we didn't really see a whole lot of diversity as we were observing the community. But we could relate because, WVU is the pride of Morgantown. So we are certain that Fairmont is definitely proud of their university as well. So here's a picture of Muriel's. And there's a picture of the Polka Dot. Unfortunately, the Polka Dot had a fire and we were unable to go inside or eat or anything. And Muriel's is actually closed also, but the Polka Dot was working on kind of getting things up and running again. However, due to everything, we are uncertain of the status of their kitchen and when they will be up and running again. So summary analysis, we're going to go ahead and take a look at our photo map. I'll just take a second to pop up for us here. So here's kind of, as you can see, the different places we visited. So there's the Marion County DHHR, Fairmont State University, Fairmont Senior High School, Muriel's Italian Kitchen, Joe Manchin Senior Healthcare Center, the Soup Opera, Wick, Polka Dot. I was really hoping to get some of that ice cream. Marion County Health Department, Scott Place Homeless Shelter, East Fairmont High, Marion County Family Resource, and then Serena Solutions Health and Wellness. So again, these are just kind of all the places we got to see, and as you can see, they are fairly close to one another. And we discovered kind of the community being involved with one another from our informants to be true. They do try their best to combat issues that they may be facing. So that's all that we have for you. We hope that you enjoy learning about Fairmont as much as we have, and we look forward to seeing you whenever all this is over. Thank you, guys.